Hombre, AEW, damn it.
Yo, what's good, Sixer Nation? Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Sixer Nation, Sixer fans, and to whoever is watching me. Happy New Year, y'all. This is the first show of the year, the post-game reaction to the Sixers Sacramento Kings game last night in Sacramento. The Sixers on a West Coast trip, but let's talk about this. Yeah, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Shout out to my guy, One Mike. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Yeah, it has a lot to say right there. I can't believe they sold the game at the end like that. Yeah, that was terrible. We're gonna definitely talk about it. We're gonna get to everything. Shout out to the Pull Up Basketball Podcast in the building. Appreciate you, BJ. Appreciate you. Yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's just get right into this. So the Sixers, the first end of a back-to-back, they took on the Sacramento Kings, and they lost this one, which they had control of the game for the most part. And at the end, they were not able to prevail, and they ultimately lost the game. But Sixers were without Joel Embiid and Kelly Oubre. I think Kelly Oubre is dealing with a hand injury. You know, the injuries is still continues to pile up for the Sixers. You know, now Kelly Oubre is dealing with a hand injury. But Joel Embiid was rested, I believe. And I think the logic was to, just give him some rest because the game tonight, which will be against the Golden State Warriors, that's a televised game. So it just made sense to bench him and then, play him against the Golden State Warriors, which will be a televised game. So, I mean, I get the logic, but and there's nothing we can do about it. But the Sacramento Kings were without Keegan Murray, who is dealing with the ankle injury. Wishing him a speedy recovery. But the first half, I missed the first 2-3 minutes into this game. When I started watching it, the Kings had a 15. I mean, not a 15-point lead, but the Kings were up 15. I mean, not up 15. The score was 15-8, where Sacramento was up by 7 points. But when I started watching, that's where I saw, a lot of action where PG was really, they were running stuff for him, right? They were running stuff for Paul George, and he was just getting to the mid-range and, getting to his spots and then, pulling up for, these mid-range shots. Now, Paul George through last night, he took a lot of mid-range shots, right? A lot of mid-range shots, which it was a little bit surprising because in today's NBA, teams or front offices are they're telling these players not to take a lot of mid-range shots. So that's why you see guys like Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, and some of these guys who really were mid-range assassins from last season. Most of them are taking a lot of threes. But nonetheless, case in point is that I was just surprised that he was taking a lot of mid-range shots, but he made a lot of them. I mean, Paul George, he was probably the best player on the floor for the Sixers last night. He definitely came out to play. He stepped up huge in the absence of Joel Embiid. And people that criticize him, you probably don't have anything to say. I mean, other than the collapse in the fourth quarter. I mean, the first three quarters, there's nothing you can say about Paul George, right? He came to play, playing good on the defensive side of the floor. Offensively, he looked sharp. Getting to the basket. He had a lot of drives, getting to the rim, all the way to the rim, and finishing. There's this one play where he banked it off the glass, and that was a pass from Tyrese Maxey. And I'm gonna get to Tyrese Maxey in a few minutes here, but they were running stuff through Paul George, and he was the initiator sometimes as well, right? Where he's just initiating the offense and getting the Sixers into their sets. So that was a lot of touches for Paul George, and I was glad to see that, right? I was glad to see that. And I think the last stream that I did, I was talking to him, the Pull Up Basketball podcast, and I did tell him that, I mean, the game against the Sacramento Kings, I mean, Sacramento, which is home for Paul George. I mean, he's from California, so I hope that he probably breaks out of his shooting slump. And he did exactly it. Shots were falling from everywhere, from the floor, in the mid range, at the rim, from the 3-point line. He was just making shots, right? And he was also finding easy opportunities for other guys like Caleb Martin. Eric Gordon came off the bench. He was a huge sign for the Sixers. His first game since last year, right? His first game, I think he had some dental work done, so he had to miss a couple games. But he came off the bench and was instant offense for the Sixers. Raining threes, and some of his feeds came off of Paul George, right? So, the first half, it was all Paul George. The first half. Now Tyrese Maxey had a very quiet first half. He had only 6 points in the first half, but I mean, Paul George had it going. Paul George was in rhythm. He had it going, so it kind of made sense for Maxey to just feed Paul George and try to facilitate, try to get guys easier shots, easier opportunities. And another player who was really helpful or really resourceful for the Sixers in the starting lineup. I mean, first of all, I was just surprised to see Kyle Lowry in the starting lineup again, right? Because Kyle Lowry has, he fell off a cliff, right? He's no longer in his prime. He's no longer as good as he once was, and I think playing him that many minutes is just it's not going to help him, right? Playing him those many minutes not going to help him at all. But Caleb Martin was really huge for the Sixers throughout the game, right? Not from the scoring side, but playing defense, he did the best he could. But I mean, going up against De'Aaron Fox and going up against Malik Monk, and these are two some of the best guards in the league. I mean, I think Malik Monk, coming off the bench, he's very, very good. But he was starting last night for the Kings, right? Because Keegan Murray didn't play. But having to keep him in check and keep De'Aaron Fox in check. I mean, De'Aaron Fox, in my opinion, I think he's a top 10 point guard in the league. Right. So, that's definitely going to be tough. And especially you don't have Kelly Oubre out there on the floor. So you don't have his defense with you. But I felt like Caleb did the best he could defensively with those two guys, even though De'Aaron Fox did hit the Sixers with 35 points. So, he wasn't playing that night. Right. He wasn't playing last night. So he probably could have dropped 40. And then you had Domantas Sabonis on the other hand, who on the glass, he was just a beast, right? 21 rebounds on the glass, almost at a 2020 game. But he only dropped 17 points. I mean, not that 17 points is just only, but he gave you 17 points, closer to getting a dub, right? So but yeah, Caleb Martin, like I said, I'm a huge Caleb fan, so people are probably gonna say I'm being biased, but I love Caleb last night. In the game, his effort, his shot making. I think he made like 2 threes, helped the Sixers make, a couple threes. So I'll give Caleb that. But Gershon Yabusele got the start because Embiid is not playing. But, he had a quiet first half as well, right? Along with Tyrese Maxey. Nothing really from the offensive side of the floor. Didn't really get too many open looks. But Paul George was creating a lot of those open looks for himself and for Eric Gordon, who came off the bench, like I said, and had a very, very good night for the Sixers. Now, the Sixers in the second half, Andre Drummond, he got in the game and he was getting some post-up touches. And it was just funny that, Andre Drummond was getting on the block and, using his size to overwhelm some of these guys, right? He got the ball on a post-up one time, and I forgot who was guarding it. It was either Alex Len or Trey Lyles, one of the two. And he just took two dribbles and, drop step and just laid it up. And I was like, okay, I mean, Andre Drummond is giving you something on the offensive side of the floor. And then one play, he, had a reverse layup. So at least you had players that were giving you something on the offensive side of the floor, right? Especially with Drummond. He's not really an offensive guy. He's not really somebody who's going to give you a ton of points, right? He ain't going to give you a ton of points like that. But I think that was a huge sign that Andre Drummond was giving you something, offensively. I think he finished in double figures in terms of points. Yeah, he gave you 10 points, 9 rebounds, coming off injury, right? He's dealing with a toe contusion, right? So the last game that he played was against the San Antonio Spurs, where he got wrongfully ejected. But that's the last game that he played because he's dealing with that toe contusion. But, he came in, played 20 minutes, which, I felt like he could have played a little bit more because, Sabonis was killing us on the glass. But, in the 20 minutes that he played in, he gave you some good quality minutes coming off the bench, giving you 10 points, 9 rebounds. And a few not blocks, but a few, alternative shots because he did contest a few shots at the rim. On De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk. Now he did, pick up, some fouls, which, some of these fouls were questionable, especially on Paul George, because, Paul George ended up fouling out. So the officiating on the Sixer part was not, I didn't really like it, but I'm not gonna make any excuses. The Sixers, they lost this one, right? They lost this one. I ain't gonna make no excuses, but the officiating was a little bit, it was a little bit fishy. Because some of these guys were just getting all they had to do. I'm talking about the Kings. All they had to do was just drive, and they get a foul call, right? Malik Monk gets a foul call. De'Aaron Fox drives, gets a foul call. But no excuses though. The Sixers lost this one. I ain't gonna make no excuses, but for the most part in the first half, I really loved that Paul George was going off because he had really struggled a lot in these. Let me say 4 to 5 games, right? But, in the first half, he gave you 20 points, right? An efficient 20 points. So he was a huge factor in the Sixers being up in the first half, because of what he was doing on both sides of the floor. I think he picked up a few steals as well in the passing lanes, stripped a few guys a couple times. I think there was one play where he stripped De'Aaron Fox off the ball, and I think Maxey picked it up. And he was able to get a bucket out of it. So Paul George was solid on both sides of the floor. And, he gave you 8 rebounds as well, right? 8 rebounds and 5 assists, right? So, shout out to PG. Like I said, best player on the floor for the Sixers, giving you 20 points. And then other guys who also contributed as well. Eric Gordon, gave you something coming off the bench. And then, you had Andre Drummond, like I said. Now, a few faces that we saw in this game, a couple new faces. Justin Edwards checked in for the Sixers in the first half, which, I was glad that, Nick Nurse giving some of these younger guys a little bit of playing time because, for the most part, Nick Nurse doesn't really play some of these younger guys, right? And then you had Ricky Council, who also got some minutes. Now, Ricky Council, I'm going to get to in a few minutes because he did something in the fourth, which was very, very terrible, right? It was a bonehead play. It was very, very terrible. We're going to definitely get to it. But, like I said, in the first half, I was really impressed with Paul George. And then, you had a few guys also who gave you something. Maxey, like I said, Maxey only had 6 points. But Maxey was, setting guys up. And, I don't think he was in rhythm in the first half. But in the second half is where he started to, go off and, get into the cup and, shooting these threes and get into the free throw line. And sometimes Maxey just sometimes he puts the game in the hands of the refs where he just drives and he's out of control and he gets to the rim and he seeks the contact, but he's not getting these foul calls. So Maxey has to he has to be better. But like I said, in the first half, he wasn't really in any rhythm, right? He was 3 for 9 and 0 for 4 from the 3-point line in the first half, right? Just in the first half alone. But Paul George, help carrying the Sixers, help giving the Sixers a boost. Eric Gordon also giving you something mostly in the first half, and then you had your Caleb Martins chipping in, and then Maxey also chipped in as well, right? Now in the second half, that's where that's where let me start with the positives, and then we're gonna definitely get to the negatives. But in the second half, and as y'all come in, please make sure you smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel as well. But in the second half, that's where Sacramento also the Sixers were up at they had a 12 or 13-point lead at some point, right? But Sacramento kept fighting. They kept being aggressive. They kept attacking. I mean, Domantas Sabonis, he'll put up a shot and miss it, but he'll still get the offensive rebound and look for another opening, whether it's from the 3-point line or look to find a Kevin Huerter, cutting baseline, and then next thing Kevin Huerter is laying the ball up. But Domantas Sabonis, he's really a huge part in what the Sacramento Kings do. And Sacramento has been a terrible team this year in the Western Conference, even though they have some good quality players, but as a team they haven't been playing too good. But they lost. I think they lost like 6 games in a row at one point, and then they picked up a win against the Dallas Mavericks, and then they played us, and then they picked up another win. So they're on a 2-game winning streak, if you want to call it that. But De'Aaron Fox, kept attacking, kept being aggressive, looking for his shots, going downhill. Malik Monk as well. Now, Sacramento typically they didn't really shoot the 3-pointer that good, right? They only made let me see. So Sacramento only made 6 threes last night, right? 6 of 16 from the field, but they were mainly attacking the paint, right? They were mainly attacking the paint, and that's why they have 14 more points in the paint than the 76ers did, right? Had 14 more points in the paint than the Sixers did. But the Sixers had the most fast break points, as you see, a huge discrepancy right there, because Tyrese Maxey, was playing in the passing lanes, getting some of these steals, and then, they just run the fast break. And then Paul George was also getting some steals in the passing lanes on the weak side, and then, he would just initiate fast breaks off of that. Now, when I look at the steals right here, yeah, so right. So let me put it right here. So for the game, the Sixers had, let me see, 10 steals, and Sacramento had 11. It says that they had 11 steals, but the fast break points is where things is a little bit out of control, because the Sixers had more fast break points, more points in transition than they did. But Sacramento played a very strong second half, in my opinion, and they did not go down easily, right? They went down swinging, they went down with the fight, and eventually it worked out for them. But the second half is where on the Sixers side, Tyrese Maxey started he started going off, where I think in the third quarter it was primarily Maxey, Paul George, and Yabusele. I think Yabusele hit 2 threes in the third quarter, like I said, and then had a play where he pump fake, got the defender to fly by, and then he drove and had a layup. So he finished with 8 points in that third frame. And then you have Maxey going off, scoring double, giving you double the points that he had scored in the entire first half. He just did that in the third quarter alone. He finished with 12 points, and I think Paul George had 10 points as well. But I mean, Sacramento, like I said, they kept fighting. They were not going down too easily. And shout out to Keon Ellis, right? Shout out to Keon Ellis. I'm really a huge fan of Keon Ellis. He's not a flashy guy. He's not typically offensive. He's not offensively minded, but what he does defensively, I really like. And sometimes when he's open, he can, make a three, knock down a 3-pointer or what have you. But Sacramento as a team, they are not a very good 3-point shooting team, right? At least not for this season, right? They're not shooting 3-pointers that good. You have guys who they have guys who typically are good 3-point shooters, but this season it's just not showing, right? You have Keegan Murray, who has been a 40% 3-point shooter in the past, but he plays this season and he's shooting in the low 30s, right? You have Kevin Huerter as well, who is a pretty good shooter, right? Kevin Huerter, Sixer fans, we're probably we're probably used to him, right? Because he lit the Sixers up in Game 7 back in 2021 on the Atlanta Hawks, and he's a pretty good shooter himself. Quick trigger, makes a high percentage of his threes, but this season has not been the same for him. It's not been that way. But they're struggling. And then you add DeMar DeRozan to this team, who is not known for being a floor spacer, not known for being a 3-point shooter. So that really hurts their team in terms of outside shots. But they do a good job attacking the paint, right? They do a good job. They do a good job attacking the paint. And then DeMar DeRozan, like we all know, he's going to get to his spots and just mid range. That's his bread and butter, right? He's going to get to the mid range and shoot as many times, but he can get to the rim sometimes, but not pretty often. He just want to plays in the mid range. But in the second half, they didn't go away. The Sixers tried to create enough separation to get this game, to put this game away early. But in the fourth quarter, that's where everything went south for the Sixers, right? When they started the fourth, the first 3 possessions for the Sixers, I didn't really like it, right? I didn't really like it, and the reason why I didn't like it was, 2 turnovers and a lot of empty possessions, right? The first turnover was, Andre Drummond trying to get deep post position in, ends up getting called for a 3-second defensive whatever. And then the next play, right, the next possession right after, you have Ricky Council the fourth, who is trying to get fancy. Instead of making a simple pass, he's trying to make a behind the back pass in midair through traffic, right? And he ends up turning the ball over. Now, I just want to say this about Ricky Council. I mean, first of all, you have to realize that you're playing for this team. Nick Nurse does not trust young players like that. So when you get minutes, the last thing you want to do is to create or make a lot of mistakes, make a ton of mistakes. You can't afford to make a ton of mistakes. Now, if this was a blowout, at that point, if it was a blowout, I mean, nobody cares. But at that point in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth, the game was still close. I think the Sixers were up by double digits, but it was still close. I mean, a double digit lead in the fourth, it's nothing in the NBA because teams can go on a run, and then the next thing you know, it's a tie game, or the next thing you know, they take a 2-point lead. But Ricky Council, like I said, made a terrible, terrible mistake, and Nick Nurse, right after he made that mistake, he just yanked him. Right, he just yanked him because you're like, bro, you're doing too much. Right, you're doing too much. Just make the simple pass and make your life easier. Right, so Ricky Council, got to realize you're playing for this team. You can't afford to be making mistakes like that. So, next time if he gets any playing time, he'll probably learn from it. Right, but it was just terrible seeing that because Nick Nurse, is not going to play him. You're probably benching for the next 3, 4, maybe 5 games. But, I think Ricky, he gave you some good quality minutes in the first half. But in the second half, especially in that fourth, that mistake alone kind of like erases what he did in the first half. Because I felt like he played some good defense and had some good takes to the rim. Now, he didn't finish a ton of it, but, it's still good offense in my opinion. Right. So I think Ricky Council will definitely learn from it. But that was the turnover right there, the second turnover, and then the next one, I think it was a bad pass. I can't really remember who had a bad. I mean, let's be real. In the fourth, there was a lot of bad passes, right? A lot of turnovers in the fourth. I think the Sixers had 8 turnovers in the fourth quarter alone, right? 8 turnovers, and they ended up blowing an 11 was it 11-12 or a 13-point lead in the fourth quarter. And that's where, like I said, Sacramento they were just attacking the paint. De'Aaron Fox was just going downhill. Malik Monk was just going downhill and just going all the way to the rim. He wasn't even settling, right? They weren't really settling because they had missed like 10 straight 3-pointers in a row, right? So all they were doing was just going straight to the rim. And then you had Domantas Sabonis, who was just glass cleaning, right? He was just glass cleaning. Whoever misses, he's just getting the offensive rebound and then, just kicking it out and, finding trying to, just getting another possession, right? But Malik Monk really killed the Sixers in the fourth, attacking the paint constantly. And then, you have Paul George, who was in foul trouble. Paul George ended up finishing with 30 points, but, Paul George was in foul trouble. And he ended, getting called for some of these fouls, which, some of these fouls were, like I said, it's not the same in terms of like what we were getting called for. Sacramento was not getting called for the same thing. So that's why it was not the same. But they did what they were supposed to do. They were attacking, and then they got to the free throw line a bunch of times, and most of those free throws came from Malik Monk, who was a very good free throw shooter, who's not going to miss any free throws. But in the fourth, Maxey, like I said, a lot of turnovers. Paul George, a lot of turnovers. I think Paul George had like 3 turnovers in the fourth alone, right? Had like 3 turnovers in the fourth alone. One of those turnovers, I think he got trapped at the got trapped in the corner, right closer to the half court line, and then he was trying to pass it to Eric Gordon underneath the basket, but Trey Lyles was in the passing lane. He intercepts it, and then the next one, they call a timeout. They draw a play. Paul George, comes off the screen, turns the corner, and guess what? He loses the ball. Right. So, those turnovers really hurt the Sixers a lot. And then you had, these Kings players, capitalizing off those turnovers, right? Scoring on those turnovers, getting to the rim and, just, making it a close game, fighting back and then, eventually tying the game up at 107. And I think the Sixers, their last field goal came at the 3-minute mark. So with about 3 minutes left in the game, the Sixers could not score, right? Because a lot of empty possessions, a lot of turnovers, and then they draw up plays. They cannot execute what they drew up in the timeout. So these are factors that really went in to hurt the Sixers in the fourth. And then you had Sacramento on the other end, finishing it off with a 15-0 run, where, like I said, the Sixers, with about 3 minutes left in the game, they could not score or get to the free throw line. And that's how they won. Malik Monk got to the free throw line, iced a bunch of free throws. The Sixers call timeout. They come, and then the next play, it's a turnover. So, these turnovers really hurt the Sixers. And, it turned a good game from a few of the players into a terrible game, right? It turned, Paul George, who was getting a lot of praise, a lot of credit from, Sixer fans, from group chats that I'm in, and from the media. They ended up turning against him because of late game execution, late game turnovers. And, I have my guy Mike saying that Paul George choked. Paul George and Maxey choked. Which, yeah, they did choke. I would agree with that because some of the turnovers were it's not they're really not, it's not turnovers that they usually commit. So yeah, I'll definitely say they choked. But yeah, that's how they lost this game. But late game execution is really, really important in the NBA, right? So when you get a lead, you should look to, protect the lead, look to, get stops, look to, extend the lead even further because any lead is erasable in the NBA. But the Sixers were not able to, they were not able to get stops when they needed to get stops. And on the offensive side of the floor, when they had to, score in order to keep up with the Kings, guess what? Turnover after turnover, empty possession after empty possession. And that really hurt them, right? It really hurt them. And nobody's to blame for it. At least in my opinion. I'm seeing people blaming the head coach, people blaming Nick Nurse again. And then, it's like people want to play the blame game now, and Embiid is getting blamed. where when Embiid was out the game, I mean, Embiid didn't even play, and then you had the Sixers up by double digits. So I think the Sixers, they have to take care of business next time, but I believe they're going to be better. This is just another game that they're going to learn from. But what's good, BJ? Appreciate you for joining.
What's good, Andre? You hear me?
What's good? What's good?
Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year, bro. Hey, I expect great things from you, bro.
Man, you know how it is. You know it is with me and you. It's love, man. That's why I'm made it a point to say I'm gonna start showing up to more of your lives, man, and be there to support.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right, so now I'm gonna go through thing by thing. What happened last night? So sit back and you relax for a minute. Now, I'm glad how it unfolded yesterday, how it unfolded. I'm glad that shit happened because it highlighted everything I've been saying about y'all at the beginning of the season. First thing is the in and out with certain players on the team. Kelly Oubre, what does he have? He has some type of foot injury or something?
A hand injury.
Hand injury. Okay. He didn't play last night. KJ Martin's out with a foot injury. Right? Those are two of your glue guys that you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are big integral pieces.
Yeah.
No, I said those are two big integral pieces to your team. So
Mm-hmm.
you're missing out on those two players. And then, okay, so you're missing your glue guys who are going to get you extra possessions, get you extra, opportunities to score the ball and play team ball. That takes away from your stars. Now, let me get into something I said about Embiid. This is why I keep saying with Embiid being in and out the lineup, that's going to make y'all very vulnerable because y'all can never get any type of continuity. This has been since the start of the season. He's been in and out. He's missing games. He's out for back-to-backs, things of that nature. You have to continuously change your playing style. Nick Nurse cannot coach like that. If you have a coach where your players are not there and they're not there consistently, then it's going to be a problem. You guys been on a roll. Y'all been winning games. I think y'all won 5 games in a row, and it's been with Embiid, Maxey, and PG on the court. Y'all won against Boston. Y'all beat Utah. Y'all beat Portland. Y'all been winning games for the most part. But these guys being out the lineup is making y'all have to coach different ways. So that's another thing. Continuity is a problem. As far as last night goes, there's alarming things that I said was going to be a problem. First thing is with Tyrese Maxey. Now, this is why I say people need to stop putting this guy on such a high pedestal. I'm talking to Philadelphia 76er fans. All I've been hearing is how great Tyrese Maxey is, and he's a very good player. But last night showed who's an all-NBA team player, a la De'Aaron Fox, and who's an upcoming star in Tyrese Maxey. Now, if you watch the last 2 minutes, Andre, what did De'Aaron Fox do that Tyrese Maxey didn't do?
De'Aaron Fox was able to show up in the clutch, put his team on his back, and will his team to victory. And Tyrese Maxey, turnover after turnover, bad pass after bad pass, and could not execute late down the stretch, and that's what happened, according to my estimation. And then De'Aaron Fox was also playing defense on Tyrese Maxey, and Maxey was not able to.
There you go. And Tyrese Maxey wasn't checking De'Aaron Fox, was he?
Right.
Who was on him?
Caleb Martin was on him a few times. I saw Kyle Lowry on him a few times as well.
Okay, so my thing is Tyrese Maxey. If you are the best player on the team, why aren't you checking De'Aaron Fox? And why is De'Aaron Fox checking you and scoring on the other side? And for the love of me, Andre, De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Maxey are the same fucking player. Why in the fuck does this kid never shoot a mid-range shot? Why is it everything straight to the basket, 100,000 miles per hour, or a long-range three? Why is this little nigga never shoot a mid-range shot? And then he throws his hands up and he complains and bitches to the ref, talking about where's my foul at? No, bitch, how about you shoot a mid-range shot and shoot the easy shot? De'Aaron Fox had enough common sense to say, hey, Andre Drummond's backing up off me. Let me shoot a mid-range shot. They are simply the same damn player. They both have equal speed. They both have great aggressive to the. They both have sliver. Why is this little nigga never shoot a mid-range shot? And you make the game harder on yourself. But you get a guy as fast as you, De'Aaron Fox. That shit don't work. And it got
Right.
exposed last night. You can do that shit to players who are slower than you, who are not as fast as you, but you can't do it to somebody like De'Aaron Fox, who's faster than you, stronger than you, and smarter than you. And it got exposed.
Right.
That's one thing. So y'all Sixer fans, stop preaching to me how great Tyrese Maxey is, which he's a very good player. No disrespect to him. I like his toughness. I like his grittiness. But he has holes in his game. Now, that doesn't change the fact of how I feel about his game, and he has, things he can, get more improved on. But, bro, the start of the season was Tyrese Maxey by himself. The Sixers were losing games on his back. If you're really that guy, that first, second option, you should be able to carry without Joel Embiid being there. Last year, y'all had a losing record with Tyrese Maxey leading y'all. And y'all kept saying to me, Tyrese Maxey needs to be this. No, well, why is the record not replicating that? Because he plays basketball. He plays basketball. He's one-dimensional. He's only 6'2". He doesn't play defense at the level of a De'Aaron Fox, and he doesn't shoot the mid-range shot at all. Now, as far as the turnovers go, I'm gonna say this.
BJ, I think you went out.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me say this. Now, Maxey had 27 points last night, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, let me get to Paul George now. How many did Paul George have?
He finished with 30.
Okay. Now, Maxey has been killing. He's been the guy against the Boston Celtics, right? He was dominating. He was the guy against the Boston Celtics, against the Utah Jazz. He's been playing some great basketball. Now, what's the rule, Andre, when you got a player who has it going? Do you keep feeding him the ball, or do you go away from him?
You keep feeding him the ball.
Okay. How many shots did Paul George get in the fourth quarter?
One shot.
Why in the fuck do you give the guy who has the lead in scoring 3 quarters, 30 points, he gets one shot? Why?
Great point.
Who do you look at?
Looking at Tyrese Maxey.
Why the fuck do you not give this guy the ball? And let me ask another question. Nick Nurse, why do you keep having Tyrese Maxey being the point guard? It's obvious that he's not a point guard. His playmaking ability is not there. I said this, Andre. I said, who should the ball go through in the offense?
Yeah, you said PG.
Okay. So, since people want to say Paul George had turnover after turnover, did his turnovers come off of traps, Andre, or do they come off one-on-one situations?
I think they came off traps because they trapped him at half court where he was trying to find somebody on the baseline, and then somebody was in the passing lane. They got it, and then the next turnover was him turning the corner, getting to the rim, and then he ended up losing the ball.
Right. So you had two. Well, there was 3 turnovers he had. He had 2 turnovers. He had 2 turnovers when they were trapped. Sabonis and I think Keon Ellis at half court. And he still got the ball through the trap, and he just made a bad pass. The second turnover was the shot clock going down. He catches the ball. He sees De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk in a trap, and he traps and he turns the ball over that situation. And the third one was he turned the corner. He got doubled. We tried to split the double team. So the pattern is that you need 2 guys for him to turn the ball over. When I saw with De'Aaron Fox, it was De'Aaron Fox simply just guarding Tyrese Maxey.
Right.
In one-on-one situations.
On an island. Right.
On an island. Now, my thing is, I'd rather put the ball in the guy's hands who needs 2 people to stop than 1. Why do you have Tyrese Maxey on the ball so much and you don't put Paul George in situations where he's not even having the ball in his hands? Because you can't trap somebody at the top of the key. It's much more easier to trap a 6'8", 6'9" wing on the baseline and the extended wings than it is on the top of the key.
On the top of the key, right.
So if a trap comes and he's bringing the ball up, that opens up the offense. to everybody else to catch the ball and shoot and, be open. That's why I say Tyrese Maxey needs to be more off the ball. But for whatever strange reason, they keep they keep giving him the responsibility just to bring the ball up every single time. I'm like, they need to switch that off.
Yeah, but DJ, one of the points you made with the point guard and who's running the offense, I think that's the only option, the only real option they got right now, because you got Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson, and those guys cannot run offense as much as they could in the previous seasons. I mean, Eric Gordon is cooked, Reggie Jackson is cooked, and Kyle Lowry is damn sure cooked. So, with the point that somebody else got to run the offense, that's the only thing I disagree with. But the fourth quarter, I absolutely agree with you that the offense should have went through Paul George more, because he had the hot hand. He was in rhythm. I think he had like 30 points. Yeah, he had 30 points in 3 quarters. So why not go through the guy who was hot the majority of the game? There's no reason why Paul George should only take one shot in the fourth quarter. And that one shot came off that the shot clock winding down, the turnover that you're talking about, that I completely forgot about. So that was terrible and terrible. I think we can definitely give blame to Nick Nurse for being the head coach for calling some of these plays, and then Tyrese Maxey should definitely get some blame for taking all those shots in the fourth quarter and not feeding PG the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's just common sense, man. Like, even my thing is, if you look at the history and you just watch what's been going on. Now, people want to say Embiid needs to be on. I'm going to get to Embiid in a minute. But they didn't even need Embiid to win last night.
No, not at all.
This notion that Embiid needs to be on, bro, Embiid's been really taken away. And I said this before. What did Paul George shoot last night, Andre?
He stepped up huge for the Sixers.
Who was off the court?
Embiid.
Now, just a couple days ago, did I just not say that Embiid's been taken away from him?
You sure did. Said that. Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, okay, Embiid is a great talent. Of course, he's a player that, he creates a lot of different matchup problems. I mean, he's a dominant force. But less is more. My thing with Embiid, bro, you don't need to be scoring 30, 35 points no more.
Right.
You need to be doing less, like Donovan Mitchell's doing in Cleveland, like John Morant's doing in Memphis. Those guys' points per game have went down, but you know what has went up? Those wins. That's called winning basketball. I said there was play after play against the Utah Jazz. They run the same fucking pick and roll between Maxey and Embiid. 5 straight possessions. Paul George on the side with his damn hands on his waist. He's not even touching the fucking ball. That's making me think that this is a big 2, not a big 3. But when the big fellas automatically off the court, now all of a sudden Paul George wants to score 30 points. He wants to score 33 points against the Charlotte Hornets. He wants to score 21 and 9 against the Orlando Magic. He wants to score 20 something against and they were winning these games.
Right.
For the Sixers to win, Embiid is going to have somewhat of a light bulb in his head and said, hey, we needed this guy to come with me. And the only way to do that is, how about you sacrifice your game and start being more of a defensive player on the defensive end, making the extra pass, getting these other guys involved, because you're going to be who you are anyway, because you led the league in scoring already. But man, Paul George, the turnover where he the one, I'm not even talking about the one that I really was saying I was just boneheaded when he pushed off with his elbow on Keon Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's the thing that Paul George did that you could say is really his fault, that he keeps doing over and over, that chicken wing. He don't need to be doing that. He don't got to do that. That's bonehead basketball on his part. The not knowing the shot clock is running down, and you get through the double team, and you should have shot the float or whatever. At least you would have got an attempt at the rim. Like, plays like that are plays you can't have, and that is something where you can put blame on PG on. But for Maxey to go out there and see him have the hot hand going, and you still feel like you got to be able to score 27 points to match him and not give the ball up, that's unacceptable point guard responsibility. You didn't have – that wasn't your night. You had your night against Boston. You had your night against UT. You've been having your night. Give the ball up to the guy who has 30 points in 3 quarters. And another thing, I'm gonna give it to you. Paul George, I'm starting to notice he's getting in foul trouble. It's because he's having to cover for people who can't stay in front of their man. Now, Malik Monk, you just made a good point. Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox getting downhill. What's the first thing, Andre, that your coach tell you when the offensive player is coming downhill? What are you supposed to do as a defensive?
At the rim, or if you're shading the help.
So if you see, okay, so I'll make it better player understand. If I see an offensive player coming towards me, what's my first objective to do? Supposed to stop the ball, right?
Stop the ball, yeah.
Okay. Now, Tyrese Maxey, if I see Malik Monk or De'Aaron Fox coming full speed at me, my first thing is to try to stop the ball. And what I'm starting to see is, and some of them fouls, you can say PG, like I said, the offensive foul, that was on him. But when I see him having to protect the rim because motherfuckers can't stay in front of their man, and it puts him in a position to foul because they ain't got no size because Embiid is out, and Drummond, he may not be in the game, which I'm going to say something else too.
And then they're playing small as well because Gershon Yabusele was the 5 in crunch time.
It's something else too. Andre Drummond, why in the fuck was he not getting the ball more? Like, he was literally killing Trey Lyles, and I think there was one play Maxey had the ball, and he just turned it over, and Drummond said, like, bro, give me the ball.
Right.
And I'm telling you, his playmaking ability is trash. And that's why I say he don't need to be the point guard. Because he's not even looking
BJ, who you gonna go with on
Bro,
this team?
If PG's in the game, let him be the point guard. Let him be it. He hasn't been turned the rock over really when he's been running. Like I said, when the offense been running through him, they've been getting good quality shots.
Right.
Fucking Maxey, bro, like he's a 2 guard in a point guard's body, man. But the thing that the main issue I got with him, bro, this motherfucker never pulls up mid range. Everything is always 1,000 miles to the basket or a long range 3.
No in between game.
No in between game. And De'Aaron Fox right in front of your face, who went to the same school you went to, plays just like you.
Kentucky. Mm-hmm.
And you mean to tell me, light bulb, hey, maybe I should pull up in the mid-range to keep the defense honest. Like, that's why, and I think I told you this too. I said, see, a guy like Jerry McCain, he's smart enough to understand if De'Aaron Fox is, quote-unquote, faster than him, whatever the case may be, he has enough skill to at least get his shots up.
Right.
He's a more polished basketball player than. I'm not saying Tyrese Maxey is not a deserving player. I'm just telling you, people don't look at the holes in his game, bro. His playmaking, his inability to shoot 3-point shots, and then if he faces a player or a mid-range shot, and then if he's being play up against a player who's better than him or faster than him, that speed shit don't work. Then you start shooting and chucking these long-range threes.
Right. Sidestepping, you're just jacking up shots and you keep missing them.
Bro, what the fuck are you doing? And I got to give a shout out to Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin's been showing up. He's been a great utility piece. This, that, and the other. But, bro, like, they have got to understand the pecking order on this team, bro. Like, I don't know who in the hell told Tyrese Maxey that he's on that level. I guess it's because of, these ESPN rankings. I don't know what it is. I told you that trash-ass list when they had Tyrese Maxey as a top 15 player. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not that. You're a good up and coming player with a lot of talent, but you got holes in your game. And I don't know what Nick Nurse is thinking, but like I said, Embiid needs to take a back seat and allow Maxey and PG to be the scoring options for now, because your ass is in and out the lineup anyway. You need to do other things for the team. They need to let Paul George run the offense more through him because it looks better. And Tyrese Maxey, he needs to, if he's going to be the point guard on the team, he's going to have to learn how to make better have better plays down the stretch, and get other guys involved.
Yeah, good points. But BJ, I'm gonna go to Kobe Bryant film real quick. What's good, KB?
Yeah, man. Hey, look, I wanted to pop in. I seen you were live, so I just wanted to pop in and say what's up, man, and salute to you and BJ. I was able to catch him at the same time, so I appreciate both of you guys' work that you putting in, man. I appreciate it. Just showing love. I ain't got nothing really to add to it.
Appreciate it. Happy New Year, bro. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man. God bless y'all.
All right.
All right, yo.
But BJ, the Paul George running the offense. I mean, like I said, I think the Sixers do need a better point guard, because I don't trust, just like everybody else, I don't trust Tyrese Maxey's decision making down the stretch. If he's a primary decision maker, if he has to make plays down the stretch, I don't really trust it. Now, sometimes he can, he makes better. Sometimes he makes better plays, but there are other times where if he's going up against better defenses, his flaws is just you can just see the flaws like so clearly. That's why when you made that point about Boston, I was like, yo, I want to see us when Drew Holiday's on the floor, because Tyrese Maxey's decision making sometimes can be questionable. Right now, as a scorer, he's a fantastic scorer. He can go all the way to the rim, or sometimes if he's in rhythm, he can shoot those threes and make them. But as a primary decision maker, I just don't trust it. That's why I really wanted us to get a point guard on the team. And at this point, I don't trust Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson, or Kyle Lowry, or anybody else.
Well, I'm not saying making Paul George the only. I think they need to share the responsibilities. Keep the defense honest. Because they were doing that in the winning, like against Charlotte. They would have PG bring the ball up. Against the Spurs, they have PG have the ball more in his hands. Against the Magic, they have PG keep the defense honest, especially when you got a defender like one-on-one. He was destroying De'Aaron Fox. He was destroying Keon Ellis. He was destroying Kevin Huerter. He was destroying everybody. So he's a rhythm player. You got to let him. That means he has to feel the ball. He has to dribble the ball. He has to touch the ball. That's why I didn't understand this notion of parking him in the corner. He already told you that's not his game. He already done told you Doc Rivers tried that shit, and then you see that Doc Rivers got fired. Like, he is too gifted and can do too many things for you just to park him in the corner. Like, right. That is bullshit. Like, I can see if other guys get open shots, but you can't park him on the corner and just say, just go and get 30, and he's not even touching the rock.
Yeah, that is terrible. That's terrible. For Paul George to not touch the rock, in possessions like that is terrible. And they got away with it because you're playing against the Utah Jazz, but against some of these better teams, you're just not going to get away with it. And it's just facts, right? It's just facts. And I didn't even realize that Paul George did not score. Only took one shot up until this morning when I rewatched the game, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that was definitely terrible on Tyrese Maxey's part." And I mean, the Sixers, on the other hand, they had a lot of turnovers, so I think they shared the blame right there. But Tyrese Maxey got to be smarter, got to make better decisions next time around. But I mean, I'm glad that at the postgame interview, he did say that he messed up and he will definitely be better after this one. So hopefully, I'm thinking that he learned from this game, and next time he has to feed the hot hand. He has to give it to the guy who's in rhythm. And I mean, Paul George has 30 points. I mean, nobody could stop him on the other team. Not De'Aaron Fox, not Keon Ellis, Kevin Huerter's not a defender really, and not anybody else. Trey Lyles, nobody could stop him. So, yeah, that's Tyrese Maxey got to do better.
It's playing for the next man. It's playing for the next guy, and that's why I said
Right.
that's gonna be y'all biggest thing. Like, is everybody gonna play for the next guy? Like, even if you look at y'all record without Embiid this year, like, and it's Maxey and PG, I think y'all won a lot of games. Of course, when they're both, on the floor and they're playing healthy. With Maxey and PG, they're winning games. Like, they're not like taking a bunch of L's, and if they lose a game, it's not by a lot. I think the only real game they had like a pretty much meltdown was against the Cavs, who were the best team in the league. But other than that, they've been competitive. So y'all have enough. Y'all have the glue guys. Y'all got the athletes. It's just Nick Nurse. I get it. It's a little frustrating having a guy of Embiid's caliber and then out the lineup, but I think they need to readjust that pecking order. I think it should be Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Joel Embiid. That should be the pecking order. And people may say, "Oh, that's crazy." Well, no, it's not really. If you've been watching the first 30-something games, that's what they need to do, and I think that's going to help everybody kind of flourish.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that I think in certain matchups, Paul George should definitely be the second. The pecking order should be Maxey, George, and then Embiid. And then other matchups, I think Maxey can definitely be the second. I mean, like I said, depending on the matchups, but I mean, Paul George seems to thrive against anybody, right? Any team. So I can get why you're saying that, but I mean, I'll just say that I think it should be matchups based. I mean, even certain matchups. I mean, I don't think Embiid should be the first option, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And yeah. And
Because
just be a defensive stopper. Grab all the rebounds. Use your gravity to create easy opportunities for your teammates, and not try to look to shoot the ball every time you get it at the free throw line.
Yeah, and just talk. Like communicate with your teammates and tell them give them confidence. Like, you see what Jokic is doing, like with Westbrook. He's making Westbrook feel comfortable. I think the Nuggets are 9-3 with Westbrook as a starter. But when you try to ice a player, and that's the thing, some players don't need to be decoys. They're not built to be that. Like, you try to put Westbrook as some type of specialist instead of one of the greatest point guards of all time. And even to this day, he's showing you he'll sacrifice his game, but he could do so much more for you if you allow him to feel welcomed. But you want to ice this dude out. You want to get your shots up, and all that shit really does is you're taking away the help that you can provide. Now
you're hurting the team as well. You're hurting the team.
Yeah, it's about the team, man. I like good basketball. I'm not even really. I mean, yeah, I cover the Clippers, but I just like good basketball. I like players that play for one. I like players that make right play. I like great basketball. That was an exciting game last night. I can't lie, but it was very telling of the Sixers. Basically, they got to figure things out, and they got to get guys on the court consistently. I like how Nick Nurse has been coaching the team for the most part this year, but that's the next step of order. They got to find a way to get these other guys, in order. That's going to be your job.
Right. And BJ, one thing that I realized is that when Maxey was really not trying to force anything, not really trying to take a bunch of shots in the first half, the Sixers, they pretty much won the first half, right? Convincingly, with Paul George, getting to his spots, eating in the mid range, getting to the rim, and then on, spotting up in the corner, he was making threes. But in the second half, where Maxey, I don't know if he was trying to get his numbers because he didn't really have that good of a first half. That's where the Sixers, everything went south for them.
Exactly, and there you go. That's what tells you who needs to be who. Now, you know why it's more impactful for Paul George to get his numbers over Maxey, because if you let PG do his thing offensively, you go on the other side, he starts guarding other players defensively. And it's
Right.
more impactful across the board with the team. There's a
Mm-hmm.
game when we played, y'all played us like the beginning of the year, and Paul George, I think he went 7 for 9 from the field, had 18 points, I think like 9 rebounds or something like that. I mean,
You talking about the first game in
yeah,
LA?
in
Okay.
LA, the first game. I was at that game, and we had nobody to guard him. Norman Powell couldn't guard him. Chris Dunn couldn't guard him. Terrence Mann couldn't guard him. Amir Coffey, like nobody could guard him, right?
Derrick
So
Jones.
Derrick Jones couldn't guard him, the quote unquote PG stopper, which that shit is the most hilarious shit I've ever heard. But that's for another day. But that's what he brings to your team, and they were in the game up until they took him out in that third quarter, or Nick Nurse benched him because he was on minutes restrictions. So that's why I'm saying he could do pretty much everything on the court. You don't limit that. Maxey is only so much a 6'2" point guard can do on the court. If you want to score the ball, cool.
Yeah.
But don't ice me out. Don't ice the guy out that can do more than you, if we're being honest about it. But I'm still choosing to be respectful and take a back seat to you, even though I'm better than you, because I have no ego. Don't ice me out the offense, man, because I'm not going to be – you guys are going to need me down the line throughout the season. And
Right.
that's why I think Sixer fans are kind of going a little bit too far, crowning Maxey something that he's not. And I'm not saying he'll never get there, but he ain't been no All-NBA player. I mean, he got one All-Star?
Right.
Bro, like, come on, man.
Last year. Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, last night, it was clear as day. Paul George should have been getting those shots. Now, Maxey, like you said, you had your night against Boston, against Utah. That was your night. I mean, last night was my night, right? I got 30 and 3/4. There's no reason why, if you're the point guard, if you're the primary decision maker on the team, there's no way that you don't realize that Paul George is he got the hot hand, and there's no way that you don't feed the hot hand, because you're the primary decision maker. You should decide who gets the shots. And it's not you, because you were struggling throughout the first half. Now, he did get his numbers in the third quarter, don't get me wrong, but Paul George was still hot in the third quarter as well. So it probably just would have made sense if you just feed the hot hand.
Yeah, you feed the guy that's hurt, because let me tell you something. If Paul George saw you hot, like he's been doing, he would have gave you the ball. He would have passed the ball off. Shit, there's people that say he's too unselfish. So do the same thing for your teammate.
Right.
Like, you get on the other side and you guard De'Aaron Fox, not Caleb Martin. That shit really opened my eyes to see, okay, yeah, I ain't tripping. Because for you to score the ball and then not even take the responsibility to guard the other team's best player, that's very telling to me. But De'Aaron Fox didn't.
He not an on-ball defender like that. Now, if you look at the stats, he did get you 5 steals, but I mean, come on, most of them were in the passing lanes, and when it mattered the most to get a stop, the Sixers could not get a stop in the fourth. And Malik Monk blowing past whoever was in front of him, and then you have Paul George coming over to help, but he just gets there late and ends up having a foul, and then that's how Malik Monk was getting to the free throw line like that. And then
ends up having a foul, and then he gets why can't he stay in the game?
Right.
Well, he's not just getting foul. Like, if it recurring happens over and over, you might want to look at the type of fouls he's getting. Okay, he had a foul on Keon Ellis where he extended his arm. Okay, cool. He had a foul on Malik Monk going to the basket because somebody got beat. Then you had another foul, which I didn't understand this one either. Malik Monk drives into Paul George's side, and the ref sees that Malik Monk gets off balance, and they call a foul on PG. So that's a little bit you know,
That's an iffy call. That's questionable right there. Yep.
it's like, okay, so you gonna blame me for being stronger than him, like, and he falls over. Like, I mean, that was a little questionable. But at the end of the day, if you can't guard your man, then you might have to go on a boxing one or some type of zone, which I might have tried that because just so Fox can, get off his heater. Because once Fox get on his heater and you just allow him to keep doing the same thing over and over, this on Nick Nurse, then it's pretty much game over because he gonna see the basket getting big. I mean, this was a clutch player of the year a couple of years ago. Like, he
Right.
lives in the fourth quarter, so you gotta find a way to cut his water off, and the way to cut his water off may be to get into like a zone action to force him to shoot longer contested shots.
Right. That's something I was thinking of too, because this Kings team, they're not really shooting the 3-pointers that good. So why are you allowing these guys to get deep, penetration and finishing at the basket or get into the free throw line? It would have just made sense if you forced them to make tough 3-point shots. And before they went on this run, they had missed their 10. They missed 10 straight 3-point attempts, right? Until Keon Ellis hit a big 3-pointer to cut the game. I mean, to cut the deficit to 2, and then DeMar DeRozan tied it up at 107. So yeah, the best defensive option was to keep them on the perimeter and force them to shoot threes.
Yeah. Now watch this. Watch this dumbass Joel Embiid come back tonight. Mark my words. Watch dumbass Joel Embiid come back tonight and act like he got to score 30 for them to win, and completely miss everything that Paul George did last night without him, and he's been doing without him throughout this season, and take him out the office yet again. And watch Paul George have somewhere between 8 and 10 points tonight, shoot bad from the field, and people say he needs to show up. Watch. Watch. I'll be very surprised if Paul George comes out with more than 15 points tonight. I'll be very shocked. I'll come on here tomorrow if you do a live and say I was wrong. But I'm just going by the patterns. Like,
yeah,
Joel Embiid, if he is the person that I'm looking at. He needs to. First off, you being in and out the lineup versus team as it is. But if you're going to do that, have some courtesy and say, okay, these guys have been carrying it for the time being. Let me go ahead and make sure they get their shine. That would be my suggestion. But he think he the MVP. He think he the best scorer of all time. Like, he ain't gonna listen. It's probably why he ain't ever won shit.
I mean, I heard rumors that Paul George might not play tonight because I don't know if you remember back in the second quarter, he had this tough drive where, after finishing, he landed on his back and they had to take him out. He had to wear a heat pad or so. I heard that they might sit him out for this game. I'm not so sure, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because I mean they're trying to preserve these guys. They don't want these guys to be playing through too much shit. So.
These guys, man, these medical staffs, bro, be having me, bro, like, everybody's sitting out for something. Like, somebody, like, stabs their toe or something, like, you're out for, like, 3 games. Like, bro, like, it's, man, that's why sometimes these guys get out of rhythm, too. Like, they're not playing enough games in a row, and they're not creating chemistry and continuity where it's like, they can really continuously have, a good streak of games. I mean, if his back is to the point where he can't walk or it's it's gonna hurt him, okay, that's one thing. But if it's just like a bruise, bro, like, just let him play.
Right. Because I mean, after he landed like that, I mean, he still came in the game and he was balling. He was still scoring points. He was still playing defense. So I don't see why you would have to bench him. But I mean, at this point, it's in their hands. It's not in our hands. So yeah, but BJ, I'm getting ready to close out. You got any final thoughts?
Nah, I ain't got no final thoughts, bro. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Love what you're doing. I'm gonna be tuning into my game tonight with the Thunder. So we'll see what happens between us and the Thunder tonight. And yeah, y'all follow, y'all my boy Andre, y'all like the video, subscribe, share all that good stuff, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Y'all can go sub to the channel. The Pull Up Basketball Podcast covers the NBA, but primarily the LA Clippers, but he talks about other teams as well. But yeah, these are my thoughts. But the Sixers take on the Golden State Warriors tonight, so we will definitely talk about that game on Friday, and then on Saturday I got a very interesting topic that I want to talk about. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. The Sixers could not keep their win streak alive. The win streak came to a stop after 4 games. So hopefully the Sixers can win tonight and start a newer win streak. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Shout out to Tuna Sports. I mean, Tuna Sports, he gonna pop his shit. His team is playing. His team is the best team in the NBA right now. I mean, I think record-wise, it's kind of safe to say that. I mean, he says this NBA is soft. So if this NBA is soft and your team has the best record in the league, what does that say about your team? Tuna Sports. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Happy New Year once again. First show of the year, Sixers Kings post-game reaction. The Sixers didn't start off the year how I wanted them to start it off, but hopefully they can get a victory tonight. The second day of the year, and then we can definitely talk about it. But I appreciate y'all. Yeah. It definitely is funny, Tuna Sports. It is funny. If this NBA is soft and your team got the best record, then the Cavs is the most softest team in the league. So, but yeah, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and also y'all can go sub to Tuna Sports as well. Tuna Sports, he's a Cleveland Cavaliers content creator. So subscribe to his channel as well. But yeah, I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Peace.